The latest electoral college map from Real Clear Politics has Joe Biden leading President Trump 226 to 125, leaving 187 electoral votes up for grabs. Joining me now is the co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics. Tom, great to have you on a couple of weeks before the election. And we put that map up because this is the most recent map. There's clearly a lot of wiggle room. No one's at that 270 needed to win the election. But what I also wanted to do, Tom, is I wanted our producers to put up the 2016, your last 2016 map before the election, and it has an overwhelming, resounding Clinton-Kaine win over Trump-Pence. They were wrong. What's going on? Are you right or wrong this time?
I mean, if you look at that map, Eric, and if you didn't know anything about the 2016 race and you just were shown that map the day before the election, it had Clinton winning 272 to 266. I think anybody would characterize that as a very close race. Trump only needed to flip one state. He ended up flipping three. The problem is that that's not how that race in 2016 was characterized to the American people. For weeks leading up to that race, you couldn't turn on the TV or your computer or the radio without hearing a supposed expert talking about how the race was in the bag for Hillary Clinton, 97.256%, with this certainty, this degree of faux statistical certainty. And these weren't insignificant individuals. It was David Plouffe, Obama's former campaign manager. It was Sam Wang, Princeton University professor, well-respected individuals who really missed the boat on that election, because that race was a lot closer than I think the public was led to believe by the experts.
Hey, Tom, listen, I'm a big fan of Tom Bevan. I'm not a big fan of polls, especially national polls, because they've been so inaccurate. What I do like is we're looking at a map and finding the path. And the path for Donald Trump this year seems to be, it almost has to be Pennsylvania. If it's not going to be Pennsylvania, I'm talking about the ones we already know about: Texas, Florida, Ohio going to Trump. I'm talking about the ones that are up for grabs, the battleground. It has to be Pennsylvania. It should be North Carolina. If not, he's got his work cut out for him. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it this way, Trump won 306 electoral votes last time. So he can lose, right, 36 electoral votes and still win with 270 electoral votes. So the question is, where can he lose? And you start with Florida. It's 29. I mean, if he loses Florida, his path to 270 almost entirely disappears. So, but if you assume that he's going to win Iowa and Ohio, which are competitive this time around, and as you mentioned, North Carolina and Florida, then you're left with four states really: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. He could lose two of those four and still win the election. And I think the Trump campaign feels pretty good about Arizona. So then, he could lose two of the three of those upper Midwest states and still win re-election, especially if it's Pennsylvania with 20 electoral votes. If it's Wisconsin with 10, then you're talking about, Nebraska's second congressional district and Maine's second congressional district. You could be in the neighborhood of a 269 tie, which,
right.
It is 2020, so maybe that's the most likely outcome.
I'm going to refresh our audience's memory, and maybe others who watched it on Fox. I was there at 11 o'clock at night on election night, and I saw the path. It was done. Donald Trump was your next president. They didn't want to hear it. Fox didn't want to call it, and they made me now. But I was on air calling it, and it was all because I saw North Carolina, and when North Carolina went, it was over. I don't care what the math was. It was going to be a Republican president, even if it was a tie. And hopefully we don't have that same situation. And by the way, New York Times at the time was calling the winner Clinton, 92% chance of winning, and they were all wrong. Tom Bevan, always good to have you. We'll get you on again right before the election. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Eric.